This is To Help You Heal, and I'm your host, Marie Monville. We are going to spend 10 minutes talking about healing. What kind of healing do you need? Is it in your mindset? Is it emotional healing? Is it spiritual healing? You know, there's a lot of healing that we all need, and this is where you're going to find it every week, 10 minutes on Tuesday. I'm so glad you're spending this time with me. Welcome back to this week's episode of To Help You Heal. We are in our series called Going For It, and we've spent the last couple weeks talking about what holds us back. Last week we talked about the myth of feeling ready, and this week we're going to take it one step further and talk about what happens when you've started, that moment when it gets hard and you're tempted to quit. Because let's face it, growth feels awkward before it feels natural. And inevitably, we're going to find ourselves in this place where we're thinking, this isn't working. I'm not prepared for this. What on earth was I thinking? I should probably quit and walk away. And that feeling is normal, but we have the opportunity to say, is that true? Or am I just in this place of discomfort because I'm stretching? If you're thinking that is exactly what I need, then I just want to invite you to stick around for these 10 minutes and hang out with me while we unpack this. And that's the reality of resistance. And that is a normal occurrence because anytime we step into something new, whether that's a dream or a calling or even a healthier rhythm, resistance shows up. I mean, let's take it back to some aspect of diet or exercise because I think we can all relate to that one. If you decide, I'm going to get up a half an hour early, I'm going to either work out or I'm going to go for a walk, something like that, you get maybe what, 2 days into it, and then you don't sleep well, or you miss your first alarm, or you had planned to go for a walk and the weather's terrible. You wanted to do a workout online and your internet is down. We all face those places, and it's really easy in those moments to say, forget it, I'm just going to quit. But what if we could push through that place of resistance to say, no, you know what? This is important. I made a commitment to it. I made a commitment to myself. And even if it's not perfect, I'm going to do something because something is better than nothing. I think if we come, especially from that perfectionist perspective, the antidote to that is reminding ourselves something is better than nothing. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to do a little something. And I know for myself, whatever the task is, if I'm not feeling it, whether that's writing or working out or anything, I can procrastinate too. I'll often tell myself, all I need to do is do this for 10 minutes. If after 10 minutes I'm still not feeling it, then I'm going to assess what I need because I've learned that about myself. If it's just base level procrastination, if I push through for about 10 minutes, I'm good and I'm going to be able to keep going. But if it's something more, if I'm really depleted, if I am exhausted, and in 10 minutes, I'm still feeling frustrated or blah or disconnected, then that's my time to step back a little bit, be objective, and say, what is really going on here? Am I tired? Is there some other issue that's lingering? Something else I need to clear up, whether it was a conversation with someone or some place of my own insecurity? Is there something I need to go after here so that I can move forward? I want to encourage you to do that too. When you hit those places of resistance, when you want to give up, telling yourself, I can do this for 10 more minutes. I'm sure I'm going to feel better in 10. And then in 10, having that place of a self check in. Do you feel better? If you don't, being able to step back and ask that question, okay, what's really going on here? What do I actually need in the moment? But I think a lot of times when we're feeling resistance, it might sound like, who do you think you are? Or this isn't working, or I must have heard God wrong. And I just want to reassure you that feeling resistance is not proof that you're off track. Actually, it's quite the opposite. It's evidence that you're doing something that matters. And it's also the indication that God is stretching you because the enemy loves to attack us where we're called, and I think oftentimes God allows these places of resistance because they're going to build resilience inside of us. We all have to be willing to bounce back. We have to be able to pick ourselves up when things don't quite go right and start again. Think about it like when a child is learning how to ride a bike. If the first time they have those training wheels off, they fall off, they can either throw the bike down and walk away from it, or they can brush themselves off, pick up the bike, and say, I'm going to give this another try. And I think sometimes as adults, we have to remind ourselves to do that because we have this expectation that we just ought to be able to get it right on the first try. And if we can't, we want to throw the bike down and walk away. But what if we could embrace this place of resilience and tell ourselves to keep trying, that it's worth the investment of our time and the opportunity to come back and do it again? When we get into those spaces, though, of resistance, I think it's largely driven by our own self doubt and places of comparison. So let's talk about that. Because if we take one step, our inner critic starts to list all the reasons that we should turn back, in these places where, whether I've experienced this in my life for sure, whether it's in speaking or writing or some kind of project that I'm working on, being able to say, oh my gosh, what have I done? Why am I doing this? I'm not prepared for this. It's not so, not so much for me in the speaking. I mean, I got over that a long time ago. For me in that realm, it's really saying, I want to share my story. I want to connect with other people who need hope and inspiration. But there are still some types of groups that do intimidate me a little bit. I'm not going to lie about that. And I think we all have those places, though, that we start to make some kind of comparison or doubt creeps in. Social media is a great example. I think on there, we're seeing our beginning and we're automatically comparing it with somebody who's already in the middle. And so we're saying, wow, why can't I do it like they are? Or they're so much further ahead than I am. Well, maybe they started before you and they probably already had to figure out some of these things that you're working on too. But I want to take you back to the truth that your obedience is the success. And God never asked you to compete. You're not competing with them. You're not even competing with yourself. He's just asking you to be willing and to be faithful. So instead of thinking, am I doing enough or am I doing it right? What if you could ask yourself, am I doing what God's asked me to do today? And just leaving it there. We talked last week about the middle, that the middle is where the magic happens. It's where the growth comes from. And I think the truth is that growth is oftentimes uncomfortable. We're going to have to be willing to be in a place of discomfort if we want to grow. I heard someone say recently that if you're not growing, you're dying. And in a way, that's true. Because there's a point where growth stops feeling exciting and it starts to feel uncomfortable, and that's where we quit. And if we quit in that place, not only are we not going to move forward, but we're probably going to move backwards. We're going to lose some of what we've already gained because the doubt's going to be there, the comparison's going to be there, and it's going to take us way back or take us out completely. But what if we could relabel discomfort? What if we could say, hey, discomfort's not a red flag to me. It's not telling me I'm doing something wrong. It's actually confirmation that I'm being stretched. And the truth is that Jesus even had moments of discomfort. He kept going, but he had to get away sometimes, reset his mind, be refreshed. Discomfort's not a bad thing. It's just something that we all go through. So what if we could simply make it that? Just say, "Hey, this is simply something that everybody goes through, kind of like getting a cold. It happens and I just need to push through it." Because God doesn't want us to just reach the destination. He wants to form our character on the journey. So, what if you could pause instead of quit? You know what? If you're tired, just rest. Rest in God. Listen to some worship music, but don't give up. And I think that's that thing. If you come through those 10 minutes of saying, I'm going to work on this for 10 minutes, and then if I'm still not feeling it, I'm going to assess what else is going on. If you do that and you're thinking, hey, I'm really tired, then take time to rest. Absolutely. Or return to your why. Why are you doing this in the first place? Where has God called you? Because in the beginning, when we feel those things and we think about where God's calling us, oftentimes it's really exciting. And that excitement fizzles out in the middle. But we have to take ourselves back to that place and remind ourselves of that and allow ourselves the space to feel it again. And then I think it's speaking the truth out loud, using scripture, using some truth statements about who God is and where He's called you and what you believe He's doing in this space of impact, even when you don't feel it. And then celebrate those small wins. We've talked about this before in other episodes of the podcast. The thing is that progress compounds when you notice it. So take time every week to identify and celebrate those small wins. And then find people who are going to encourage you, who are going to remind you of who you are, even when you forget it. So here's your reflection for the week. If you're in a hard place, maybe you're in a discouraging part of your journey, doesn't mean you're off course. It might mean you're right where the growth happens. So I want you to ask yourself, where am I feeling resistance right now? And then follow up with, what truth from God's word do I need to speak into that space? And lastly, who can I invite to walk with me so that I don't quit? Because you're not falling behind, you're probably being refined. So keep going because God's not finished and neither are you. And then come on back next week and join me for the final week in this series. We're going to talk about what it looks like to live in motion, how we stay open, and how we keep saying yes to the things God's put in front of us.